All right, so the last thing we need to do for this Hydroflask is to create the handle. If you look at this answer key, as I've called it, this is what the sketch looks like. So it's just on the plane that is parallel, the center plane parallel to the Hydroflask logo, and here is your sketch. So basically, you're going to need to use the Use tool, which is this one, the Project Convert tool, whatever you want to call it, so you can reference some of the shapes already on your cap. And if you zoom in here, you'll see that the handle is centered on this little black nub. So that's something that you'll need to do as well. And then the distance from the center of that nub down is set. And this is just put on with a fillet on the inside surface. All right, so let's do that sketch. So we're going to draw that on our right plane. I'm going to say normal. And what I'm going to do is project this up or use it. Didn't let me do that. I'm going to hide. Oh, we never named this. Well, I guess I can't do it in the sketch. So let's just hide that for now. And I'm going to select this and say use. And I'll select that one and use that as well. And now what that allows us to do, if you look straight on, is to draw a construction line down the middle of that line. Let's find there's the midpoint. And it might not find that because that is an oddly shaped. Let's see if we can force that to happen and say coincident. And let's just say that's good enough. All right, so now if we want to draw our shape, I'm going to just sort of randomly pick a space down there and then come up and now let's put a center point, let's say center point arc, somewhere down in here. We want it on the center line, which is what it's auto aim assisting to. Oh, I forgot. I thought I want center point arc. I think I did that in the last video. So if I pick just somewhere along that center, and there we go. I wanted to be coincident with that part. Now this might look funny, but that's because we first of all have to add a dimension to this. So this is going to be 1.9. And you can see I didn't constrain that yet. And the distance from here to this bottom edge is 0.23. And now let's come back in and constrain. Oh, I guess I have to put a point on this little line that I drew. So I'm going to make sure it aim assists to the origin, or sorry, to the midpoint of that line. And then I'm just going to say make that line be on that midpoint. Though I'm not, now that I'm looking at it, I don't think that's exactly what I want. Okay, one last dimension and then I'm going to fix this midpoint thing. But this, from that center line down to the end of that line will be 0.38. And now let's look at what I did with this. I defined it as 0.5, and I guess I made this point and that point be vertically coincident. So I'm going to actually delete this midpoint constraint. You want to only say delete sketch entity so that you're getting just the midpoint constraint that it's deleting. And now you can see it's moving along that line. But it's not constrained to the midpoint of that. So let's leave that for now. And now we are going to fillet this edge right here with a radius of 0.25. All right. And now what we can do is offset this whole thing. So the whole curve. So I'm just going to select all of it. And we want it to actually offset to the other side. And we want the offset distance to be 0.05. Which I somehow didn't quite change, 0.05, let's try that again. And there we go. And I'm going to close this off so that we have a closed sketch on the top and the bottom. And the reason we're only drawing half is because we can obviously then mirror it. And you can see there's still one thing that's not constrained, which is that we want the center of this handle to be along the center of that little nub. So I'm going to actually move, and draw a construction line here that goes from that point over to there. And I'll put a midpoint. Actually, I want the midpoint on that line. And that one. And obviously I didn't get the midpoint here because I was afraid it wasn't going to snap to it. So I'm going to actually just select the point and the line and then come in and midpoint it. And now you can see this is the midpoint of the black nub. This is the midpoint of the handle. If I say vertically constrain them so that they're vertically aligned, now everything is constrained except for this down here. Let's move this around and see what's not. Oh, that's what's wrong with that. So let's make that line be horizontal. And this is probably the same problem here, so let's make this vertical. And there we go. Now we have the full half side of the handle, and we can extrude that. And the extrusion distance is 0.75. But, so that, if you come to this view, you're going to see that the handle is not centered on that nub. So we want to say symmetric. So it goes front and back. And we're going to hit OK. And now, obviously, as you all know, this should not be squared off. So instead, I'm going to fillet it. And you can come here and say full round. And what you do is you pick the two sides that make that up. And then pick the face to round, which is that. And you can see by picking in order the outside, the other outside, and then the center edge, you're going to get a full round. I'm going to turn on my cap for the handle. Oops, didn't mean to select that. In fact, well, let's hide that plane. And now we have our half a can handle. So last thing you can do is mirror these two parts. Sorry, these are going to be feature mirrors, so we're going to mirror the mirror plane will be one of our origin planes, which will be the front. And green check that. And that is it. We have finished it. You can turn off your planes and follow the instruction. If you want to turn off your planes, you can hit the P key. And now you will follow the instructions on your worksheet to turn it in. You'll probably have to report a mass and so on, but that's it for now. Okay, a few last minute fixes to the video that I just finished on the Hydroflask. I would like you to rename the parts that you created. So this should be the end cap. So you can name it end cap or handle cap or something like that. And this will just be end cap 2, let's call it. And then the last thing is, I didn't catch this, but when I extruded this part, the handle, I forgot to say new, and you obviously want the handle to be a new part, a separate part from the cap, otherwise it can't rotate relative to the cap. So I'm going to say, make that its own part. And now you'll see that we have, well, let me move. This is the handle, and that is also the handle, and they're two separate parts. So we are going to select both of those parts and Boolean those together. So you can actually say union, which just means put those two together. And that, oh, hold on. And I forgot to say keep tools. So in this case, you're not going to say keep tools because it's going to create one part from that existing 2. So you don't want to keep the 2 and have the 1. So let's rename this the handle. Oops. And that's how your Hydroflask should look. And then the last thing that I forgot to have you do is to change the material of the cap and all of the plastic tops that make up the cap. So I'm going to just say select all 4 and let's just make them all the same just to keep this simple, and assign material for 4 parts. And let's see, how about an HDPE? And we'll just go with that. And now everything has the material assigned, so if you need to give the mass, you can do so. Just make sure when you do look for the mass, you're selecting all of the parts that you were supposed to. All right, that's it for now.